The informant back in the building. So lately, I've been noticing a lot of people and different platforms are starting to become comfortable with having conversations about topics that they would usually call conspiracies. For example, the rapper DaBaby was just on an interview talking about humiliation rituals and how they're real, and he's been in the circumference of certain activities behind the scenes, right?
A humiliation ritual.
You could call it that. I could tell you about this shit. I'm telling you, I could write a book. That's how this shit go for real. Like, ain't no Connor.
Well, you saw with your own two eyes
Yeah.
that if I wanted to make it,
The world saw it.
But he's talking in a way that has people confused because he's excluding himself from the conversation as far as humiliation rituals. When DaBaby first came out, we all remembered that he was the only person wearing a diaper, and that's how he was noticed. Now, maybe he's excluding himself because he wasn't asked to do this, but he figured he would get attention doing this, while at the same time performing a humiliation ritual that he really didn't even have to do yet, right? So it didn't count for the industry, and this is why he is now basically being punished. He said he walked away from certain propositions that was made to him or advances that was made to him, and he had to let it be known that he don't get down like that, right? And he's never been in none of these dark rooms with guys with glasses on. This is his words. So he's talking very directly about possibly things that he actually saw and saying that he was never there for, right?
I was at a party at Diddy crib in LA. This was the beginning of 2020. You know what I mean? Diddy had put everybody else out the crib, like the influx of people, he had put them out. But he had took a liking to me in particular around the time, man. It was really, you know what I mean, like putting his arm around me.
right.
But if you look at the common themes people point out when they talk about artists selling their souls: humiliation moments, sudden fame, public controversy, image shift. DaBaby career followed that same pattern, almost step for step. The first step was the humiliation ritual, which is when he came out with a diaper, and he knew that everybody would be talking about this, right? But for the higher ups, they're seeing DaBaby as, if he's willing to do this, we could put our money on it that he'll do anything else that we ask him to do to take his career to the next level. And this is why people are confused about him talking about humiliation rituals and how he's seen it as if he was watching as a bystander and a spectator instead of being involved with it, right? Or maybe he just forgot. I don't know. Then step two was the controversy. When he was on stage at his concert and he called out people that was in the crowd doing things that he didn't agree to, and he started making remarks that basically offended a whole community of people.
Sexually transmitted diseases that'll make you die in 2-3 weeks. Put a cell phone light in the air. Lady, if you like water, put a cell phone light in the air. Fellas,
Lights up.
fellas, if you ain't sucking in the parking lot, put your cell phone lights in
Let's
the
be
air.
real about this.
And basically after that, the entire media conglomerate turned against him. Any headlines that you've seen about DaBaby after this situation was negative, and they started bringing back things from the past and all type of stuff, right? And this is another thing that people associate with artists selling their souls, just building that momentum, whether it's good or bad. Now finally, this would be the last step. I'm not saying he did it, but this would be the last step. But it was very ironic. He said something very peculiar about when his album went number one, his father passed away.
Boy sleep. Yeah, bro, dad, bro, he dead. He died. I'm like, what? I set up in my bed. I'm like, what? Same time, Carter, he blowing my phone up. I click over, what's up, bro? We number one, nigga. We number one. You did it. You did it. I'm like, damn. He said,
Now, what is the odds of that? That sounds very ironic, and it sounds very convenient. You could definitely tell a lot of these conversations that these musicians have on camera, or entertainers in general, when there's having these conversations, I don't believe it's calculated because a lot of them slip up and say a lot of things that at the time it probably sound like they're trying to be smart or whatever the case may be, but they say some things that it sounds like they're not supposed to say. And I know once they watch it back, they like, damn. But like I said, these conversations are starting to become too frequent to bigger platforms when bigger platforms were never really talking about things like this. But there's a lot of fresh new channels out here that is willing to have these type of conversations. And as you can see, these bigger platforms are starting to act like all of a sudden they're down to have certain conversations that usually will get them blackballed. But because the game is changing so much and you get some freedom and you can own your own integrity on YouTube and other platforms that you could do media on, your own independent media, a lot of people are starting to switch up. And there's nothing wrong with that, because as long as the message is getting out and it's killing the facade of the music industry, the entertainment industry, because this is what this is all about. Like, for all the young ones that's coming up, aspiring to be an artist, an actor, an actress, they need to know the game that they're getting in, because nobody was telling us before. Everyone was acting like it was just all lights, camera, action, everything is fun, we're all rich. And literally, it's the complete opposite. We've seen too many conversations about artists dying broke or the things they had to go through in the industry to even achieve the smallest piece of success. So I can't even be mad at these channels for pivoting and being willing to have these type of conversations now. Now, my last thought on this conversation is, since DaBaby came out showing that he was with the shits of the industry and he was willing to do certain things, I would like to know, what did he see? What advance was made towards him that he finally said, hey, I'm not with this at all? Because, like we said, he took a couple of steps that basically showed that he was down, whether it's his album going #1 the same day his pops died, or the diaper situation. Who and how did they come at him this time to make him say, I'm now openly talking about basically conspiracy topics? And even though he was saying a bunch of nothing in that interview, just the fact that the interviewer opened the door to say what you think about humiliation rituals, that's enough right there. Because back in the day, you could not ask no artist any type of question like that and get a feedback. They would just tell you next question, or they will get up and walk away, because that's just what it is. You know not to cross certain lines. Like Takashi said, you got to take that down. You can't say this, you can't say that. The Informant, I'm out.